So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for this 8th edition of the XWiki user meetup. We have the pleasure of having two users tonight. So Paul and Nicholas. So
hello,
hi guys. So that's awesome. And the rest. So we have also Adele, Thomas, and myself, and we are XWiki developers. So, it's great to have users because that allows us to get some feedback on how XWiki used and the issues you guys are facing and things that we could improve, etc. And on our side, we can also explain a bit new features that have been just released as part of XWiki 10.8. What remains, and we have some topics on the agenda too. Depending on what we want to do and see, the time we have. So I had listed several topics. One of them was more for developers about some new Jenkins pipeline to capture and compute the global test coverage we have on XWiki and to fail the build if the global test coverage goes down. So that's a bit more not for users, more for developers. So that's something that I could present at some point if we have the time.
What did you do your daughter?
There is another topic on the ideas list, which is about the new testing framework that I'm developing based on Docker for XWiki. So I can show also some demo of that, and then we have your feedbacks. Paul and Nicholas. So we just lost Nicholas, but you're still there. So maybe what I propose, since he's back. Since we have the opportunity of having you guys as users here, maybe we should start by. Yeah, you're back, Nicholas. So what I suggest. What I suggest, Paul and Nicholas, is that each of you just speak for a few minutes about introducing a bit how you found XWiki, what you're doing with XWiki, what you're looking for in the future for doing with it. Very briefly,
sure.
So who do you want to start, Nicholas or Paul?
I'm free either way.
Okay, Nicholas, I think we have some problems hearing you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's cutting a little bit, but try again.
Let me turn the video.
No, it's a bit hard to understand you. The voice is freezing a bit and a bit metallic.
How about now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, so sorry, I have to call in on my cell phone and the reception isn't very good here, so I'll put it next to a window here. So yeah, I think this is probably similar for maybe Paul as well. But actually, in 2017, we were looking for a platform to use as a knowledge management or knowledge base internally within our company. And in 2017, we did a survey and study of about 13 different tools. And that's how we found XWiki and ultimately selected to move forward with XWiki based on capabilities, compared with the other tools. So, for me, the highlights are really, I like the fact that it's open source plus has strong vendor support. I'd much rather have that over, completely closed source tool. And then I personally had a background and experience working with MediaWiki in enterprise environments, and I found just the deployment, the features, everything that's bundled in with XWiki in terms of system administration to be much more approachable and manageable than MediaWiki. So in terms of our use, this is something new for us within the company. So earlier this year, we launched a production server to run a pilot instance of this knowledge base application. It's primarily geared towards engineering, design, best practices, guidelines, those types of things. So we're trying to harmonize and coordinate our activities across 6 different facilities located in France, the UK, and the US as well. So We had the site and system launched in March. There's site coordinators or focals, at each of the locations. We've been meeting and coming up with preliminary data model for the different content pages, and then kind of trying to scope our pilot activities in terms of what features and types of pages we wanted to demo the system and build out some sample content with. So what we identified was a form of moderation that we'd like to do to make sure that we have high integrity content. And so right now what we're proposing is that a lot of our content types, we've specifically organized them very similar to our internal engineering organizational structure. So it has a good mapping with our engineering managers and team leads. Mm-hmm. And so we're going out and reaching out to them and introducing them to the pilot program, the software tool, and our goal for the application, and basically asking them if there's anything that they could see that this would be useful right now, that they'd be willing to have some of their team members start creating content and collaborating on. So, we're basically have tried to be organized within the site focals that are managing this. And now we've rolled it out to the moderators of the different content types. And next phase is to open it up to the test users under each of those moderators. So, later on, I think when we get to features and things, I'd be interested in hearing and talking to see if there's anything to help kind of formalize that moderation process. But right now, we're basically just asking the moderators to sign up for notifications and review the content edits.
Yeah, we give like standard wiki style. So you get notification and then you check that it's correct, or you do some validation. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we can talk about that a bit after. Cool. What's the size by curiosity? Is it for how many users is this for?
So the pilot, we actually do have a support contract with XWiki SAS. So we have up to 100 users right now. We're currently about 50 in the system. Just to give you an idea, engineering-wise, I think across the 6 sites, we probably have fewer than total of 500 engineers. So, I can see us growing, and I guess it depends on if we get participation outside of engineering.
Right. Right. So it's okay. It's reasonable size. Yeah, I was asking because that seems like you mentioned several sites, so that seems like something quite large. But actually, it's 500 is reasonable. Yeah. I was.
And so, what we have it set up currently is that anyone in the company can, assuming that the firewall ports are open, anyone can view content on the system. So we've got anonymous access enabled, but we have it such that you need an account in XWiki to edit or create content. Okay. And so that's how we're trying to kind of have that division of labor there. So, and I think long term, we don't necessarily foresee everyone being a heavy contributor.
Okay, so lots of viewers. So you mean lots of viewers? Everyone can view, but few can contribute. Something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can elaborate on that, but yeah, maybe Paul can tell us a bit about the situation.
Right. Well, I've actually got 2 separate installation targets for XWiki, which are completely different to each other. So I'll go for the one that's probably going to end up a tad larger. In the FreeBSD community, we actually have a wiki already, but it's actually quite heavily safeguarded because it has to be a file-based wiki to work on FreeBSD's basically SVN backing infrastructure, and everything has to be moderatable from that level. So it was basically taken in the community that someone who is not actually in the core contribution team should open up a community wiki for the entire of the operating system to bring in the same sort of style as Gentoo has, and basically move the actual documentation onto a more public platform. And I've taken the honors of trying to take that mantle. So after quite a long time, and I think I went through around 13 or 14 different wikis as well, I ended up with XWiki as well. I think the one that actually came closest other than that was TWiki or something. Anyway, something irrelevant at this point. But I'm basically running, I thought if I'm actually going to do this for a community, for the FreeBSD community, I may as well actually do it for all the BSD communities because they've all got the same problem with the interlocking of documentation into the version controls and everything like that. So I basically registered them in bsddoc.com. And my plan was then to nest off FreeBSD.bsd.doc, NetBSD.bsd.doc, and so forth. So far, the only one that doesn't seem too friendly with the idea is OpenBSD, but I'm sure that'll come around in time.
Well, let's hope.
So my plan is I am basically going to the current style of the FreeBSD documentation is a custom DTD XML. And I actually want to import, that is the handbook. I actually want to import those pages directly into XWiki to actually make the handbook an editable experience with XWiki as the backer, which is quite difficult, as I have found out. But my plan is then to actually roll out the handbook and make it so that the users can then contribute.
What's the syntax? What's the input syntax? Is it docbook? Is it docbook or?
It's a custom DTD with XML.
Okay, so it's nothing like a known syntax, because we kind of support docbook to some level, but if it's a custom syntax, then yeah, you'll need a custom parser.
Yeah, well, quite luckily I'm a Perl developer, so I thought maybe I can actually leverage some of that skill and then probably hijack Selenium and do something that way around. But yeah. So my plan is basically to open up a community portal for all the BSDs with all their various handbooks in a more editable fashion that's separated away from the actual organization that they all have, so that users have just got an easier time of it, because it's a nightmare at the moment trying to actually commit. Now, the other one that I'm actually looking at, which is the complete opposite of this, is our company, the company that I work for, is an open source development company called OpusVL. And we basically use a customized media wiki for internal documentation processes. I think it's actually called Syntactic Media Wiki from the top of my head. But anyway, it's quite awkward to find and manage information on it. And what we're actually looking at doing is we want some way to actually put some kind of formal requirements on when you add a wiki page of if this is a type for documenting a project, it has to follow these guidelines and these have to be in it, and some way of enforcing that people actually do it, so we don't end up with wiki pages with it was something over there and some source code here and random links and things.
Kind of a template, a fixed template that you have to follow.
Exactly, a fixed template for type. And that is the other thing I'm looking into. I have not actually researched that too much. If you have anything in the pipeline for things like that, it'd be nice.
That's the main feature of XWiki, this ability to create custom templates and structured data. So I think that you will find what you need in XWiki. We can talk about how you can achieve it a bit later, but yeah, definitely. I can do that definitely. Okay, thank you. Let's continue the introduction and then we can discuss more. I see that Pawan has joined also. Hi, Pawan.
I think he's got his microphone muted.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Vincent.
Hey, nice to see you.
Nice to talk to you.
Cool. So what are you doing with XWiki these days, Pawan?
These days, little pause. I took a pause. I was there with the GSOC with Alexei, with Thomas, and it was a great back in 2017 when I applied for GSOC as a student, but joined with another organization and then continuing contributions in XWiki Authenticator Android app. Participated in GCI and GSOC. So it was a very good experience for me to work on the projects with the great peoples like Thomas and Alexei as a student as well. And also this time my visa was also approved for joining the Mentor Summit as well.
Yes.
So that is a great thing. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, yes.
Thomas, anything you want to mention? Anything you want to discuss tonight?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, Adele, anything on your side?
Yes, I'm just here to watch.
Okay, cool. So maybe we can come back to Niklas and Paul and start discussing some stuff. Okay, Niklas, you had some question about, for example, about the moderation. Maybe this is something we can discuss quickly. from my experience, there are two ways for doing this. One way is to have a space in the wiki or wiki where you have your draft content, and then some reviewers validate that, and upon validation, the content is moved to another space or to another subwiki.
Almost like a PR process.
Yes, exactly. We've seen people do that with XWiki. The other solution, it's more like you do it like you said, but you add an additional status on each page to know if it's been reviewed or not. So that's easy to do by adding some objects. You can create an XWiki class having a status, a reviewer status, for example, a review status, sorry, for example. And then when a reviewer would review a page, so there would be a reviewer group, for example. And when you're in the reviewer group, you would have a button on the page or somewhere. And when you click on it, it would change the review status of the page. So that would allow you to list all the pages that have been reviewed, and all the pages that are not being reviewed yet, for example, in a live table or something. So that would allow you to, if you have several reviewers, that would allow you to manage that a bit. So I don't know if that's something you are actually doing, or if this is something that would be good for you.
That'd be a fantastic feature. Sorry.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, the second option is exactly what we were thinking of long term to be able to have. The first one, so I am familiar with the workflow extension. We did try that,
yes.
Before expanding it, but our feeling here is internally there's not enough bandwidth to hold content in a pending review status. So that's why we wanted to go with something closer to the second
more
option.
fluid. Yeah, more fluid and better. Yeah, I agree. That's but the second one is not hard to do. It's not that hard to do. I don't know if you're asking. You said that you were getting XWiki SAS help, the company's help on what you're doing. So I don't know if you're planning to work with them on that, but that should be doable. That should be doable. Yeah, it's not something that is extremely hard to do.
Okay, good.
Cool. Paul, you were mentioning something. Question you had.
Was this the documentation YouTube one, or?
No, well, this one okay, you mentioned that we should have more videos. Yes, I agree. But we were not recording at that time, so I'll repeat what I said, is that it would be awesome. The only problem with videos is that it takes time to make them, and they become deprecated quite quickly, because with the UI changes, the feature change, etc. So you have to redo them, and that takes time again. So it would be awesome if the user community would be able to do to shoot some of them and do some screencasting. Because if the developers do that, then they can do that, of course, but that's then they cannot fix at the same time the bugs and improve the software. So we're trying to do, the documentation is what it is at the moment, but we're trying to make it as good as we can at the same time as we develop the features. But it's true that doing the video is an extra step, and that's even harder. At the moment, we try to have at least everything documented. We don't have. We're lacking a lot on videos. That would be awesome, and even tutorials would be nice because we have a very few tutorials. We have a lot of reference documentation, but we don't have that many tutorials.
Yeah, that was the main thing. It's there's almost basically no step-to-step guides, because as I was saying earlier, I'd be quite happy to shoot a video on how I installed XWiki and blah 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 configuration, but there is no actual step-by-step guide, which makes it a little disorientating.
Well, it depends on your topic. There on installation, if you go on the installation page of XWiki, you will see that a lot of people have provided blog posts or videos of installing XWiki on a given environment. The problem is that they did that for a version of XWiki and a given version of their environment.
And then it deprecated.
Exactly, and as soon as they're over, it's already deprecated. But we have like about 10 or more about those listed on the page. So there are some tutorials, and they're all tutorial style, those. But I don't know, it depends what kind of tutorial would you like to see. Is it about installation tutorial, or is it about something else?
I actually really had trouble getting mine installed in a fashion where the sites are actually related directly to the domains and actually tidying up the domains themselves.
The short URL, what we call the short URL. Okay. Yeah, yes. A tutorial on short URLs would be nice. But now, that said, the page on short URLs is almost a tutorial, isn't it?
Yes, but for some reason I cannot get that to work with Nginx and my Tomcat installation. No idea why.
Okay,
but I'll post into the thread about that one.
Yeah.
It caught me a little bit off guard with this meeting because all of my time has been actually figuring out how to actually deploy the BSD doc, XMLs, and all the rest of it. I haven't actually looked mightily into the actual full deployment of all 7 of them yet.
Okay. Okay. What else? So what do you see? What are things that you would like to see in XWiki, guys? One big thing that is your most wanted feature.
The funny thing was that I'm assuming that the other guys are the same as well, is that when I went through all 13 wikis and I actually got to XWiki actually did everything that I needed pretty much. So I just think a stronger backing on the documentation would actually be what I'd be looking for from it. I actually don't need any more features extended, I don't think. Even though the actual theming's a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm. The usage of the theming, you mean? Yeah. How do you do that? How you use it? Okay. Because capability is there on the theming. Maybe it's more on the usage of it and how fast you can use it. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems a little restricted.
Okay.
I'd agree with the documentation. For me, coming from MediaWiki, there were tons of not only guidance material, but then, like you mentioned, like step-by-step examples and walkthroughs. So I've noticed that for XWiki, there seems to be the basic documentation, but then it's difficult to go a step further beyond that. So
we need your help, guys.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I'd be happy to help in terms of anything that we've been able to figure out and implement. Feature-wise, there is one workflow that we tend to do over and over again, and I'm not sure if there's something that is already in existence, but it would certainly help us be more efficient. So since a lot of our content pages are guidance material, we find that we're constantly having a set of instructions. So we normally have a list, numbered list of steps to go through. But then we typically would like to put screenshots in for that. So we find ourselves taking screenshots, marking them up, saving the markup as an image, loading the image in. And if we ever, just like the videos, if we ever need to refresh that base layer of the screenshot for whatever reason, we have no way of doing that because it's been flattened completely. So, any kind of native markup tool that would preserve the base layer plus the markups would be very helpful for us. So then we could just go in, edit the image, replace the underlying screenshot. We might have to shift around some of the arrows and the boxes and the underlines a little bit, but we wouldn't have to basically recreate the markup every time that something changes.
I'm not sure I understand this. Maybe, yeah, Paul, go on.
I was going to say, are you thinking of something like a set of nested divs where each div has a different picture on it with a transparent background, so you can layer images on top of each other? Is that what you're trying to get to?
Similar, but like if we were doing, basically, we're looking for kind of 2 layers, a base layer that would be a screenshot of, let's say it's a tutorial on how to use a software tool. So we'd have a couple screenshots of go to this menu, pick here. And a lot of times, we'll draw a red box around the item in the menu that you want to select. So if there was a way to preserve and those on different layers, the markup.
So you want to annotate images.
Yes, yeah, yes, and be able to edit the annotations. Yep, absolutely.
Like Surface Pro style, as they marketed it. No.
I see. Trying to think. Yeah, so you need because there is it's like in some almost kind of image map, but on annotation. I don't know. There are probably existing technology for that in the HTML world.
The easiest way has got to be a couple of divs nested in each other with the background overlays as transparent, surely. Because then you've got one as the background and then you've got the other over the top.
Sure, but then if it's a div, then you mean div with, so you need playing with the, having two images, one on top of the other with some transparency.
Yeah. And then obviously if you change the background, the overlay stays the same.
Sure. But what we need to find here is some existing JavaScript library or something that does this and then integrate it, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'm pretty sure that this exists somewhere.
Right, and the markup layer ideally would be, vector-based, so that if we needed to resize a rectangle, we could grab the handle, drag it around, move lines, move arrows.
Because we do have we do have a diagram application in XWiki. You may have tried it, and it's using draw.io. And with this, you can actually drag and drop an image on it, and then do exactly what you said.
Oh, okay.
Draw a rectangle, whatever, all the shapes, whatever you want, text, whatever you want on top of it. Now it's when you do that, and if you edit again, you can probably just drag and drop another image, and the rest will remain. I'm pretty sure.
Is that the diagram application?
Yes, you should try the diagram application. Yeah, it may actually do what you want.
Yeah, I noticed that. I haven't deployed it and tried it yet, so I'll have to do that.
Well, I've never tried it with an image, but I've just read a few days ago that you can drag and drop an image on it, and it's supposed to be able to load an image from anywhere. So that could work. If the drag and drop of the image works, then I'm pretty sure that will work.
Okay.
But it needs to be tried. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What else? That was for features. Have you guys? On what version are you on, guys?
I'm on the latest version, I believe, but I will just double check.
10.7, 10.8.
Oh god, here we go. Private keys. Yeah. Pretty sure I'm on 10.8. Where are we? There we go. JD57.
So I guess
I'm on 10.6.1.
Okay, so they all pretty recent for both of you. I was wondering, because we release XWiki quite frequently. We try to release. We do release every month. We've just released 10.8 a few days ago on last Monday. And so we post release notes. I was wondering whether you're checking that, whether you like the release notes, whether you're reading them. Is that something you do?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say no. I'm kind of busy on the deployment of mine at the moment, so I haven't been quite catching up with the updates so much.
Yes, so I definitely do check and read the release notes, and particularly pay attention. So we had skipped, I think we had went from 10.1 to 10.6.1 just because of some of the, I think in between there were some key regressions or some key issues that were flagged. And so that helped us kind of make the decision, okay, let's stay put until this is resolved. And that, I guess, gets me to another question. Some of the areas here right now, I'm kind of working on the front end administration as well as the back end. And the upgrade process was very straightforward, but I'm wondering, and I've thought about this and I haven't done it. I'm not sure if maybe there's a best practice already, but I was thinking of trying to deploy Git on our server and have a couple batch scripts that basically mirror some of the key setting files into a Git repository where I could track changes in those. Because right now I don't have any mechanism. I can go into a configuration file, make edits, copy over, because going through the upgrade instructions, the best practice is set up a new directory, basically re-customize the upgraded configuration scripts. So I've got no way of kind of tracking what I've done. And that was just something that came to mind as maybe a good use of that tool.
So what distribution are you using? Are you using the manual one where you deploy manually on on your database, on your servlet container, etc., or are you using a Docker one or the Debian one, apt-get, or which one?
The manual one in conjunction with the offline installation package.
Same as me.
Oh, okay. So you're both using the offline, the zip file? Oh, okay. Interesting.
I dropped I think it was a WAR file that I actually installed in Tomcat.
Right. So that's the manual one, manual process for installation. So that's the hardest one, of course, because it's completely manual. You deploy on the database you want, etc. All the other distributions, packagings are actually a bit more automated, like the Docker one or the apt-get one, etc. Because if you were installing using the apt-get, for example, you could do an apt-get upgrade, and it would actually merge automatically files and the configuration files and everything.
Our server instance doesn't have internet access.
Yeah, which is why you're using the xzip files. No, for the configuration files, I think well, you could of course you could put them under source control on your side, in Git or anywhere else. That would allow you to manage your edits and your changes to them. The only thing you would need to do is just do the merge and copy them to the right place in the XWiki directories.
Okay. Yeah, and I was actually thinking of maybe having the repository not in the live directory, but somewhere else, and basically make the edits live, but have those copied over to the repository. So basically would kind of retroactively show me the changes. And
you could even save the whole file system structure of XWiki in your source control if you wanted, even though it would be not needed because there are a lot of stuff that are read-only that you wouldn't change. But you could if you wanted to have a full structure, and then you would just make edits to a few of the elements. And when you upgrade, you would copy over, or you cannot copy over actually, because there are stuff that can be removed, like some jars removed from webinflib. So you need to copy on the side, not over. But yes, I mean, at least putting the configuration file under source control would be a good idea, I think.
Okay.
You could possibly use separate branches for each release.
Yes.
Then you'd be able to merge them across and obviously cherry pick what you wanted either way. Yes,
you could use Git merge system to do that. Yeah, to compare and do the diffs, etc. Yeah, indeed, that would work.
I just wanted to point something out quickly when you were saying about using the apps method of installing this and the Docker method.
Yeah.
You know, you guys actually haven't got a installation package on FreeBSD at all. It's not in ports. I just checked.
Yeah, I guess there's nobody in the team who is actually proficient in that. I guess that's the only reason. So we need someone to send us a pull request for that. Hint.
All right. More work. Lovely.
I think there was Thomas. I think if I remember, there is Clément who started something, but I don't remember exactly what it was.
RPM.
It was RPM. Okay.
Yeah, I would say apt is specific to Debian, however you want to say it. So I mean, it's missing quite a few Linuxes out if that is the only actual installation path for Linux. I mean, you've got Gentoo, Arch, and all the rest of them as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to have as many install ways as possible.
I actually wonder if it'd be more beneficial to actually work on a Bourne shell that'll detect the environment and actually do the manual way, but automate it. So it will automatically, pull in the actual WAR file. So irrelevant of the operating system, it will always set up the environment correctly. And then you'd be able to transpose it across almost all open source OSs.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean, because getting the WAR file is not easy. And just do a wget or curl to get it. That's the easy part. But then you need to deploy it into your servlet container. So that depends on the servlet container.
Well, I'd have presumed that actually most people running XWiki are probably running it on bare metals rather than in containers. Well, certainly from mine and the other users' perspective. we both are running on bare metal and neither of us are using containers. So in that case, you'd be better off with an install.shell that basically detects the environment it's running in and actually pulls in the required requirements.
Sure.
So that you can deploy to... I just thought it'd be a more easy approach rather than trying to actually write installation RPMs and debs and everything else for every single Linux on the planet, and then the BSDs as well, and Solaris as well.
It's probably a different approach, but I'm not exactly sure to what integration level you can go.
Well, on a basic level, all you actually need to know is the actual package manager commands for the relevant points. I mean, if you're pulling in Tomcat, it'll be apt-get install Tomcat or portmaster Tomcat.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more easier to add those into the script on, oh, look, I am running on, I don't know, Arch Linux, and or I'm running on Cent, so I'll use Yum to install it. Or I'm running on, something else, I'll do that. You'll be able to actually fit it into quite a small script, and then you can just do the, chmod plus X, run this, and it'll pull in the right requirements and stick them in the right place.
Sure. Well, what I would propose is that you could start a thread on the forum, and we can start discussing that in more detail, see what it would mean and what we could get.
Cool. I think that'd actually be a pretty neat idea. I mean, it has a special advantage because even in a container, you'd be able to run the shell. Oh, you'd be able to run the install script and it just install it into that container.
Okay. That's not like really my domain, so I don't exactly see exactly what you mean, but I understand it.
Okie dokie. I'll start it on the forum.
Yeah. Cool. So, what else, guys? I've been speaking a lot myself. So, Thomas, Adele, if you want to say something, go ahead. Otherwise, we have a slot of 1 hour, so we still have about 15-20 minutes if we want. I mean, we can stop earlier if you want also. Is there something that Nicholas and Paul you would like to discuss, especially now?
I have all my main points across, so I'm okay.
Okay. On your side, Nicholas?
Yeah, I don't think there was. I'm just scanning my notes here.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything major there that we haven't covered. I guess there are. I do have a couple questions. So we haven't had the opportunity to really dive into and fully learn how to take advantage of the class structures in XWiki.
Okay.
And one of the customizations that we're starting to think about that hopefully it's possible. We really like the Solar search engine that's built in and the facets that are available. Again, above and beyond everything that you'd get out of a standard installation of MediaWiki, which is just a full text search. But since we're working across multiple physical locations, we were wondering if it's possible and how difficult it would be to customize those facets so we could also add a facet for site location essentially. And yes. Then corresponding properties, obviously, to the pages.
Actually, facets are extensible. You can add your own facets. So it is documented. You can find documentation for that.
Okay.
What is probably harder is if you need to add new indexes in Solar, but this is also possible, but it requires, I think, some Java coding. But I think you can also do that. What has been done in the past by other people. But the facets themselves, yes, they're completely the Solar UI and the facets you can add. It's a configuration where you mention which facets you want to add. I need to find the URL, but it should be easy to find. If you search XWiki Solar, it's probably the Solar documentation, Solar search application, and let me check quickly. For Solar. So there is on the Solar search application page, you will find there's something for developers. Yeah, and I think that's probably the section you're after.
Faceting on object properties?
Or there is faceting on object property. That's a bit okay. Where is it? Adding. Let me search for facet in the document. Display facets. It's a pity that Marius is not here. He's the expert on that. If I never facet, because there are some facets that are not on by default, I think, and they can be turned on. Thomas knows, I don't remember. So there is a facet. Okay, if you look at in the search UI configuration at the bottom, there is something. So there's a section called search UI configuration, and there is an example of facet fields, and there is a name for each facet: creator, creation date, etc. We need to find how you can contribute a new one there. How do you contribute a new one? This is not my domain, so I don't know. But what I would suggest is you could ask XWiki SIS if you're in contact with them, or you could ask on the forum. And I'm sure that Marius or someone else with the knowledge can let you know how to do it. Because I don't know off my head, off the top of my head. But you were mentioning something that rang a bell with me. It's about the MediaWiki. You know that we have, and both of you have tried MediaWiki. Mm-hmm. So you know that we have a MediaWiki comparison page. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes. Yep.
I was wondering, because we wrote this page, but we're not users of MediaWiki ourselves. So we want to make sure that what we said is correct. So there are two aspects. One is checking that what we said is correct. The second is whether there are some arguments that could be added in favor of XWiki, for example, that we would not have listed, that you can see because you've used both. So
it's
the page,
not PHP.
Yes, we have that one, I think. Let me pass. I'm pasting in the chat the URL, and that would be awesome if you could review this page and suggest things either in comments there, or actually there's no comment in the forum, or you just edit the page and add stuff.
Open link.
Because again, we want to be impartial. We don't want to say anything wrong. But on the other hand, we also want to highlight the differences on what XWiki is better at over MediaWiki. PHP is there in the technology line.
I've just actually found an interesting feature of Vivaldi. If you actually move a window to a different window on a different monitor, it crashes.
Anyway, so that's just an idea, but that's something that would help us.
Okay.
Okay, I'll have a review.
It's a small thing, but that would help. Okay. Okay, so maybe I would like to spend maybe 5 minutes to show something, but it's a bit technical. It may not interest you guys, but it was more for Thomas and Adele. But maybe you can still find interesting. I don't know. I wanted to show two things. One very quickly was to show a new framework for testing XWiki. So I'm going to share my screen, unless you guys have pressing important things you want to say.
No, I have some forum articles to write and possibly a FreeBSD port to write as well. So I'm going to say my thanks and sign off. Good chat. I enjoyed talking to you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
So can you guys see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more for Thomas and Adele, but I guess. But Nicolas, you are of course fine to follow if you want. So this is the Docker-based testing framework. I don't know if you've tried it yet. I think I didn't try it.
Yeah, Simon made me try it, but it didn't work.
Okay, so Thomas, I don't know if you've tried it.
Nope.
No. Okay. So it's at the moment there is only one test. It's in menu test Docker in the menu module, and there is one test here. And when you execute this test, it will do what is written below. It takes about 3-4 minutes. total at the moment. And what I would, so it's quite nice, and it executes the test inside the database you specify, and by default it's inside MySQL here, and this is done by the UI test annotation. Actually, if you go at the UI test annotation, you see you can specify the browser, the database, the servlet engine, and whether you're in debug mode or not. And for the browser, for example, at the moment we've put system. So when you put system for a browser, it means that you can configure it through a system property, and if it's not defined, it will go to Firefox. Okay. So this means you can play with it in the IDE at the moment. Sorry, let's go back. So you could say, for example, that you wanted to have the browser being, for example, Chrome, let's say. So it will do the whole thing, as you know. Now, what I would need in order to finish this is to get people to test it. So it would be nice if you could test it, Thomas. All you would need is just run either on the command line with Maven or in your IDE to run the test. I know there's a problem with VNC on Simon's machine because there is some OS incompatibility somewhere, but I need to list all the problems. The other thing is we need to fix the performance. And this is where, Thomas, maybe you can have some ideas. At the moment, the thing that takes the most time, you can look at the times here. This is my last run of the test. Actually, it checks if XWiki is started already. Okay, if XWiki is started, then it will actually use the XWiki. Nothing else is done. It will run the test in this existing wiki. If it's not started, it checks if there is already a target XWiki class. If it exists, it will reuse it. And if you do a clean, if it's removed, then it will rebuild it. Same for the database, by the way. You see here, there's a MySQL directory in target. That's the one. So that's the data from the last run. If you remove it, of course, you will get a new clean data. So whenever you do a Maven clean, it removes that. So you see here building custom wiki war. So it's keeping it because it exists. It's starting in MySQL. So that's quite fast. That actually took 7 seconds. Then it's starting Tomcat. That's a bit longer, 26 seconds. And you see the part that takes long is the provisioning of the XR extensions. In this case, there are 3 extensions for this test to provision the menu UI, panels UI, application UI, and this goes from 42:27 to 43:52. So that's 1 minute 30 seconds.
3 plus the dependencies.
Plus their dependencies, yes. But it's that's out of the test total takes about 3 minutes 20 seconds. So there is 1 minute 30. That means almost half of the test time is spent on this one. So it would be nice if we can find a way to make that faster. I think this is the main difference in terms of speed from what we were doing before. This is the one that takes that drags us, and that makes the new system a bit slower than the previous one.
We were doing the same thing before.
Yes,
we were importing XARs too.
Yes, we were, but not through. Yeah, I don't know if there's a difference because we're using the REST API here.
No, it's not.
Where it was before, it was directly on the database, or I don't know, through the import. I don't know if there's a difference or not. And the difference is between.
It depends where you can find the dependencies.
In any case, it's pretty. Maybe the resolving is long. I don't know if it's the resolving on the repos that is taking long, or if it's the installation of the pages, or both. But unless we think that 1 minute 30 is a good time for installing those, I find it a bit slow. And maybe there is some other way to do it. If it's too slow, then we will need to find maybe some other ways.
Depends on many pages there is to save?
Because if we look at the rest, you see if we continue, then it's starting the browser. So that's 7-8 seconds. Then we're initializing the XWiki test context. That's the first. There's the first time XWiki starts. It's about 10 seconds. Then there's VNC is 1 second. And then the test itself takes 30 seconds, which is about the same as before, I think. So globally, there's only two things that we can really improve: is this our provisioning and the and maybe the building of the custom XWiki, which I have skipped here. The resolving can be improved. I think it takes, if I remember, it takes something like 10 seconds. Actually, I can do it, but it's about 10 seconds. So we are globally, we are at about 3 minutes 20, something like this, versus 2 minutes before.
You can look at the status of each of those install and see where it spends the time.
What do you mean status?
Extension installation, each job is going to produce a status.
Okay.
Like any job. So you can see exactly where the time has been spent.
Okay, so looking at the logs and the time, there is some timestamp in the logs. That's what you mean? Checking the logs? Yeah, I can print the log. I can print the logs in the console and see. That's what you mean?
No, I mean there is a status.xml and you can look at it and see the time spent.
Okay, sorry.
Each of those,
so what I've just deleted now. Okay, it will come back in target. Okay. So in the permanent directory of XWiki, right? Okay, we'll see. You see I was just checking the build. Custom building, custom war takes from 5052 to 5113, so a bit more here. 5114, so it took a bit more. It took like 14 plus 8, roughly. So it's more like 20 seconds.
You sure you give the local Maven repository as
yeah,
repository?
I did that, but it always goes out, even if I give. So I need to debug this one. I still have to do that one. It's looking. It's always going remote to search for some POM files.
Well, it should not.
Okay, so
I was talking about extensions. Are you giving the local Maven repository to the XWiki instance? Because otherwise it's going to search in remote repositories. So
yes,
it obviously takes a lot of time.
Indeed, I do. Actually, yes. Okay. Actually, I do that in order to get the latest versions. I do it voluntarily, actually, at the moment. Maybe I can change that. But, it's in when I build the war. When I build the war, there is one step that I do, which is here, step 3, where I add the snapshot extension repo so that we can provision the snapshot extensions. So I'm adding this this artifact. So indeed, so we could decide that we need to build them locally, to build all the dependencies locally.
The resolve is going to be a lot faster if it doesn't have to go to the remote repository.
Yes, except that you cannot consider any longer that the module stands by itself. You will not be able to. You will need to. You will not have them. This is when I did it the first time. I didn't have the new version, so it failed on my machines, which means that
you should have them. You don't run a test on something which hasn't been built. It's what we used to do already. Yeah, you have them on the local repository because you should have them as dependencies of your test.
Yes. When you use Maven, that's true.
So if you want to speed up the install, just put the local repository. It should be a lot faster.
I can try that. It will fail from time to time when you run directly from the IDE, probably. But if you run from Maven, it will work. Yes.
Yeah, from the IDE maybe, but it's not a big issue.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to show you. So I don't want to take more time, but if you, Thomas, if you can try it at some point, that would be nice to see if you can make it work. Your only requirement is you need to have Docker installed locally.
Yeah.
I'll also try to fix my issues that I had.
Yes. In your case, I think it was a browser. The browser could not start. The Selenium container could not start for some reason. I don't recall which one. Well, we can talk about it, Adele, and trying to see what's good. Okay, and for Clover, we don't have time, but it would be good if you can look. We now have a Clover Jenkins pipeline that is working.
Cool.
Well, it's almost working. That means the build passes, and it sends an email when there is a violation of the global TPC, and it shows you which modules. Actually, I can show you here. You see, you receive an email like this one. See on my screen, global coverage failure. And it says that at least one module got a TPC lower than in the latest passing Clover report. So I've set randomly as of having the first version of the passing Clover report to be this one from 2017, December. There's a link to the Clover report, the new Clover report, you can see. And then it lists all the modules and the old TPC, the new one, the difference, and the global contribution. So there is a bug, I think, on the last column. It looks a bit weird.
When we don't get a mail, how do we access the last report or any report?
This one, it's not located anywhere except in an email. Okay. There is the Clover report that is always there, but it doesn't include this. I could copy it somewhere. At the moment, the HTML is only, this HTML that you see is only in the email.
So the report is not deployed anywhere?
No. I can do that because I can save it as HTML and deploy it next to the Clover report, for example. That would be easy to do.
Should be nice.
Yeah.
Even if there is no failure, we can still look at it.
Yeah. Yes. It's easy to do, so I can do that. Here you can see, for example, that the way to read this report is, and it's ordered by contribution. So the worst contribution at the top. So by contribution, I mean that. So it's not because you lose or you win some X% of coverage for a given module that it has this impact of the difference globally. So it recomputes globally the difference against all the code base. And this is the global contribution, except that I find it weird that they're all in the same range. So there's a problem here.
Yes, it's very similar.
But what's important is that, for example, see syntax, the text syntax has been removed since 2017. So it had 80% TPC before. So by removing it, so NA means it doesn't exist now. So there's no diff, but it has a big contribution because it has a higher, 80% was higher than the average TPC that we get now, which is about 60, which is 69%. So that means that this one globally is making us lose, let's say that's correct, 5.92% of TPC globally, which is much too high. And it should be more like, I don't know, 1% or 1% or 1%.
Shouldn't job handler make us lose too? Because
job handler didn't exist before.
Yeah, and very small now.
Now it's small. So
it should be negative.
Yes, it should be negative. Yes, but that's why I'm saying that this. I don't know why it's wrong. It used to work, but I don't know why I'm getting it wrong now. So I need to check that. Maybe because I turned on test again in the config for Clover, but normally I'm skipping. I'm in the computation. I'm skipping anything that has test in the path. So I don't know why. I need to check it.
GravViz plugin is very old stuff, from what I remember.
GravViz, yes. So yes. Why is it NA? No, good question. I don't know. Need to check that. That means it was not, yeah, I don't know. I need to check that one. But it's easy to check in the previous report. So if I click here, you get the new, so that's the new one. You can check the packages, and you can go actually to the previous one, 2016. I think that's this one before, and we can check graph these, and it exists here.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 0% coverage, of course, but it still exists. I don't know why it appears that. I need to check that also. Yeah. Why does it say 0? Where is the? Sorry, I'm not looking. Okay. What does it say? NA. It should say 0. It should say 0, 0, 0, and. Okay, but that's the idea. That's the idea. So we now need to verify everything, that we can understand everything. And the idea is that we need to fix the red ones because they mean that we have a loss of TPC. So globally, we can still win. Like in this case, we're still winning a little bit, 68 to 69. But some modules have lost, have made the global TPC go lower than it should by the changes. So we'll see. That's going to be the hard part. Is now we have quite a lot, so we could decide also to change the baseline if you want to start only from now, because we may have too much to change now. We need to decide what we want to do.
But well, the global value, is it including indirect covering?
Yes, it is.
So yeah, so it's not exactly the same thing.
Than what?
I mean, a module at 0% might actually be covered in the global value because it's covered in.
All these are global coverage. Okay, it's not the test of the module.
Okay.
This is the full coverage for the module.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm reparsing completely the raw data and recomputing everything in the whole coverage. Okay, so we need so now that we have something that is almost working, so we just need to make sure that the values are correct, and then to start looking at what we can do and decide what is our baseline, which I have put here at the moment, but it may be too hard because there's a lot of red. I think those are pretty good, but it's only the last column that has a big problem. Well, there is the NA that is probably a special case for gravies. I need to check that one. Okay, thanks. Just want to say that. Okay, cool. So let's stop here. Nicolas, sorry, that was pretty boring, I guess, for you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Maybe we can see you next time. I don't know, but that would be it. Would be awesome to see how you progress on your usage of XWiki, and and how we can also get your expertise and feedback to improve the community documentation, our process, etc.
Yes, I'd be happy to help. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening, everyone, or good morning.
Bye.
You are. Bye.
Yeah.